The Power and Magic of Sex. Siafeng. March 31, 2021. Edited by Chinyu. In the Bloodstream Sermon, Patriarch Bodhidharma said, "Nature, same as sex in Chinese, is Buddha. What propels society forward is sex, the universe is a dance of sex. The fulfillment of sex is the fulfillment of life and the fulfillment of the universe. In order for a person to become immortal, achieve enlightenment, and become divine, they must attain the fulfillment of sex. From the principle of Taiji, every life is polarized, either masculine or feminine. Only when the masculine and feminine unite can life become complete. The power of sex is immensely strong. It is impossible to transcend sex, it is self-deception. Sex possesses divine power and demonic power, which humans cannot control. Forcing control over sex will distort it and lead to sexual deviance. When sex is liberated, the world becomes peaceful, people become harmonious, and society becomes balanced and stable. Therefore, sexual freedom is both fundamental and ultimate freedom. Without sexual freedom, there is no personal freedom, no fairness or justice in society, and no possibility for individuals to become immortal, achieve enlightenment, or become divine. Thus, sex should bloom freely like wildflowers in the mountains and flow freely like rivers. Sex is amoral, therefore, moral standards should not be imposed upon it. The following conclusions are derived from an insightful perspective on sex. They may be shocking, but I hope readers will not reject them based on outdated beliefs and moral standards. To determine their correctness, rational analysis and judgment should be employed. Respecting facts, examining them with a scientific spirit and logical abilities, and avoiding emotional reactions is crucial, as becoming emotional renders one unable to reason. The conclusion is as follows: regarding anyone's sexual life and behavior, no matter how strange, bizarre, even absurd, or how promiscuous, licentious, immoral, or even deviant it may seem, as long as it does not harm others or society, as long as it is not forced and is willingly embraced by those involved, it should be tolerated and should not be condemned or even criminalized. For example, sexual intercourse between humans and animals, between a father and daughter, mother and son, grandparents and grandchildren, son-in-law and mother-in-law, and so on. For example, the fickleness of women and their involvement in multiple sexual relationships, the promiscuity of men and their involvement in multiple sexual relationships, and instances of infidelity within marriages, and so on. The myriad of unconventional sexual activities and patterns should be understood. Human society does not need to astonish or insult these individuals, nor should it hold them hostage to morality. I solemnly declare that I do not endorse the aforementioned sexual behaviors, but I can understand them. Those who have a full stomach have no idea how it feels to be hungry. The wealthy cannot truly experience the hardships and helplessness of the poor. Those with a full stomach cannot set standards for those who are hungry, and the wealthy cannot dictate norms for the poor. This is similar to how lions and tigers cannot establish behavioral guidelines for zebras and gazelles, and wolves cannot set boundaries for sheep. When the powerful drive of sex erupts, the best approach is to satisfy sexual desires. When satisfaction cannot be achieved, people will seek various ways to fulfill their intense sexual cravings. People do not desire to engage in sexual intercourse with animals. However, if conditions for sexual intimacy with humans are not present, they may resort to releasing sexual energy through intercourse with animals. If even that condition is unavailable, individuals may engage in sexual relations with their own daughters, sons, grandsons, granddaughters, uncles, aunts, mothers-in-law, nephews, nieces, and so on. As for infidelity or sexual relationships between masters and disciples, teachers and students, these are already considered quite normal phenomena. In the world of women, sex workers are a group of extraordinary women because they provide countless men with sexual fusion and satisfaction. They are considered great because they adhere to the principle that the higher the degree of shared experience, the greater the value. Therefore, it can be logically deduced that women who engage in sexual relationships with more men and men who engage in sexual relationships with more women should be affirmed and should not be subjected to condemnation or persecution. Human beings should prioritize reality. Once individuals reach maturity, they enter a stage of sexual needs. Maximizing the acquisition of sexual energy not only leads to happy and fulfilling lives for each person but also promotes a harmonious and stable society that progresses toward civilization. The prerequisite for human civilization is sexual freedom. Without sexual freedom, human civilization cannot be achieved. Sex is a form of energy and a resource that is inexhaustible. However, when individuals monopolize sexual resources, the resource becomes particularly scarce. Once it becomes scarce, it is inevitable that animal mating and incestuous behavior cannot be eradicated, and the trading of sex cannot be avoided, which leads to troubles, anxieties, pains, and even crimes. Of course, the more sexual partners one has and the higher the frequency, the higher the risk of contracting sexually transmitted diseases, including HIV/AIDS. This negative consequence can be addressed through a program, such as requiring sexual health certificates for sexually mature individuals. This is achievable. However, it is not appropriate to abstain from sexual activities solely because there is a risk of contracting sexually transmitted diseases, just as one does not stop eating because eating can cause various illnesses. Life is like a dream, all space directions are void. We should have full experiences and live our life to the most so that we won't have regrets when we leave the earth. Being satisfied and dying blissfully is better than being consumed by worries and regrets.